A day after the self-proclaimed law and order president made his feelings about the violent rioters clear,
we love you, you're very special.
He today attempted a different tack.
You do not represent our country.
That message coming too late for the 5 confirmed dead, including a police officer who today succumbed to the injuries he received in the clash.
Additionally, 2 pipe bombs have been recovered. 1 pipe bomb from the DNC, another pipe bomb from the RNC.
80 rioters have been arrested, and the FBI has called for help in identifying all those who took part, which shouldn't be hard given these geniuses splash selfies all over social media.
Let's go get a beer!
But the police response has been widely criticised, with one key point of difference underlined by the incoming president.
No one can tell me that if had been a group of Black Lives Matter protesting yesterday, they wouldn't have been treated very, very differently.
The DC police chief has offered his resignation, with reports he refused support from both the Pentagon and the Justice Department ahead of the attack.
It is just absolutely unthinkable that they were not prepared. Apparently, there's over 2,000 Capitol police officers and only 500 who had reported for duty.
The White House exodus also continued, with Transportation Secretary Elaine Chao and Education Secretary Betsy DeVos among those jumping off the sinking ship. But the captain's still clinging to the helm.
The president has committed an unspeakable assault on our nation and our people. I joined the Senate Democratic leader in calling on the Vice President to remove this president by immediately invoking the 25th Amendment.
The 25th Amendment would allow the VP and whatever's left of the cabinet to remove Trump from office, but Pence has gone to ground since yesterday's certification vote, so Congress is gearing up to do it themselves.
If the Vice President and the cabinet refuse to stand up, Congress should reconvene to impeach the president, plain and simple.
But even with all the anger, is there enough support to kick him out with 12 days left on the lease?
I know you are disappointed, but our incredible journey is only just beginning.
Professor Norman Ornstein is an esteemed political scientist and contributing editor for The Atlantic, and he joins us now from Washington. Norman, the situation in the Capitol seems to be changing by the hour. Is Trump's removal more or less likely than it was yesterday?
It's more likely than it was yesterday, but it's still not likely, to tell you the truth. There are 2 ways, maybe we could add a third, where he could go before his time is up, which is noon here in Washington on January 20th. One is the constitutional method of the 25th Amendment, but that would require Vice President Mike Pence taking a step that for him is frankly a bridge too far. The second way is for Congress to impeach and remove him. That takes a majority of the House and 2/3 of the Senate. They may impeach him, which simply would be a stain on him, the only president ever impeached twice, but it's not going to be his removal. And the third way would be if he resigned before his term was up, and he might do that to avoid the impeachment stain, but also with the promise that Mike Pence would pardon him and probably his family members. I think the odds are still much greater that he is there until January 20th, and frankly, we're all nervous as hell that that will happen.
We've heard this idea of him pardoning himself bandied around for a while now. Is that even possible or more likely because of recent events?
You know, the pardon power in the Constitution is an absolute one as it's framed, but I cannot believe that the framers would allow a president to impeach himself. Imagine you shoot somebody and then you pardon yourself. And then they say, well, the remedy is for you to be impeached and removed from office. So you shoot all the members of Congress who would impeach you, and then you pardon yourself for that. That's not what they could possibly have had in mind. If he tried it, it would no doubt be challenged in the courts, and it would be viewed, I think, as a corrupt pardon. But would you put it past Donald Trump? I don't put anything past Donald Trump.
Well, so we've established Trump is likely to see out his term, but his cabinet members are not. Are they quitting because they're genuinely shocked at Trump's behaviour, or do they just want to avoid being responsible for either firing or saving him?
When you said, are they quitting because they're shocked, I was going to say, oh, come on. Not one of them is quitting because they're shocked. They've stood with him for all 4 years through every outrage that has taken place. They watched him after riots in Charlottesville, Virginia, that killed one woman, where he called a lot of them very fine people. They've watched as He has allowed hundreds of thousands of people to die because of the failures of dealing with the pandemic. They've watched through every outrage and mostly said nothing. And now they're leaving days before they would be out of office anyhow. This is the rats leaving the sinking ship and an attempt to try to burnish their images. I've likened it to a bunch of Lady Macbeths. You remember, out, damn spot. They don't rub off the spots. I'm sorry.
Norman, Trump's got 12 days left. I can't believe I'm saying that. Is there much more damage he can do in that time?
Oh, yes. Most presidents who lose or are leaving behave appropriately. Donald Trump, not so much. He could start a war. The leaders in the armed forces, the military, are basically take a pledge that they will follow any lawful order from their commander-in-chief or resign. Somebody would at least follow it and not resign. He can do more damage in our intelligence front. He can do things that would benefit Putin or other dictators that he loves, like MBS. He could issue executive actions that would be hard to reverse. He could bollocks up the transition even more. We know that the Defense Department is not cooperating with the Biden team. And remember, it's not just us or you who are watching the farce that's been going on in this country. It's our adversaries. They're ready to pounce if they can and to take advantage. And Trump could make it harder for the incoming administration to combat that. 12 days doesn't sound like much. For us here in the United States, it feels like an eternity.
Professor Norman Ornstein, we really appreciate your insights. Thanks for joining us.
Sure, my pleasure.
It's really going to be a fascinating 12 days. And I've got to say, it's been good to see some of the people that have been ardent supporters of his actually come out and say, you know what, this is it. We've just got to get Biden in. Let's give it up. And you can imagine that if Georgia hadn't gone the way that it did, maybe they wouldn't be so pro-Trump, so willing to come out. It's
hard, isn't it? Because on the one hand, you sort of want to be able to say, you should have done this earlier, but at least they're getting there now. So something's better than nothing.
Definitely.
With so much content online, it's sometimes hard to keep up with it all. And let's face it, who has the time? The Project YouTube has you covered with the stories that matter. Hit subscribe for a daily list of the news that you need to know.